is. And Ajahn, this is Dara's first time to join a discussion with us, so she may not be familiar with the Pali terms. So I just mentioned that. Anyway, very glad to welcome you here, Dara. I think you live in Ireland, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And I heard you're a keen swimmer like us as well, ocean swimmer.
Well, yes, but not at the moment, but hopefully soon.
Must be very cold in the Irish Sea.
It is.
Yes, good. Anyway, very glad you've joined us. And hi, Chanti. And I don't know if there's any... So, Dika, I don't know if there's any topic you would like us to discuss or would like to hear about in particular, Dara.
Oh, I'm just very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Hope you have a good time listening. And if anything isn't clear or you don't understand the words, feel free to interrupt and ask for more explanation anytime. And Dara, Nina is in the top row on my screen, and Jyotika is here too. Jyotika, do you have any topic you would like to bring up today, or Nina? I always ask them first because they're our senior members.
Nina first.
Okay. Ajahn mentioned many times that Chitta is the chief of experience. And she said, because it has everything under its power. I know that Ajahn explained many times about the chief of experience, but I think it's good to consider more that it has everything under its power.
Nina, just before we go on, would you like to just explain to Dara what Chitta is? Perhaps if we use Pali words, we can just give a little explanation.
Yeah. Well, it's consciousness, like seeing is consciousness. It's a Chitta. And hearing is consciousness. It experiences sound. So that is also a Chitta. And there is not only a Chitta, but it is accompanied by many mental factors which have their own function. And in Pali, it's called cetasika. It doesn't matter about the terms, but it is more important to understand when they appear, the meaning of them in daily life. Like attachment can arise, and that is not a chitta, but a cetasika, or aversion, or understanding. There are many kinds of them. So Ajahn always explained how important it is not to know the names, chitta and cetasika, but the realities.
If we don't use any term at all and try to understand the question about is there anything now or none at all? Just now, right now, is there anything or none at all? Without any word or term at all, is there anything or none at all? Or what is it? Which is there now? See, this is the beginning to understand what we are talking about, what we learn to understand each moment. Because now is a moment, for sure, but what is there in a moment? It does not appear as sound or sight or thinking or anything, but is it there, even at this moment? See, that's why we learn to understand what is there, which is not known at all. from moment of birth to moment of death, and between birth and death, it's there, never absent. It's always there, unknown. But who knows what is there as is there now? The reality, which has no shape, no form, no smell, no tangible object, but it's there, a reality. See, a reality which experiences little by little. We learn to understand what is meant by experiences. If there is no reality which can experience anything at all, can there be the sun, the moon, people and thing, or idea? So what is it? A reality which arises, otherwise it's not there, but it's there now. A reality which experiences an object, like we use the living being and so on. But what is the truth of it? What is the living being? What is that? Without that which arises and experiences an object, even the object is not known, but it's there. Is it right? What is there? A reality which does not have shape or form, sound, smell at all, but it's there. Otherwise, nothing is there without it. Without it, nothing is there. But there is something now unknown, the characteristic of the reality which is there, because whatever appears is now sound. But can sound appear? What makes sound appear right now? A reality which experiences sound. So sound is heard. Sound is heard by the reality which hears it or experiences the characteristic of the object, as we use the word sound. A reality which is heard while the sound itself cannot hear anything at all. But what experiences it to know that it's there, a reality. And then when there's no sound, it's still there, but the object does not appear until smell appears. How can there be smell appearing without that reality which smell it? Can the smell appear? That's why any moment of sound or smell or taste or whatever is there appear, it means that there must be a reality which experiences it at moment when it's there. Only at moment when it's there. If it's not there, there cannot be any reality which experiences, which knows that it's there as a smell or as a sound or as a taste. So now there must be the reality which experiences what is there appearing. Is that right? The dead body cannot be like the living being at all, because that is a reality which arises and experiences. So there is the moment of I see, or I hear, or I think. But what is the I? If there's no reality which experiences sound, which experiences visible object right now. So learn to understand a reality which no one thought about it at all from birth to death. Just pay attention to what is there, which is experienced by that particular reality, which can experience it. So it appears at moment when it is experienced by a reality from birth, the reality which arises and experiences an object, no matter the object is sound or smell or taste or touch or idea or thought, it doesn't matter. But there must be the reality which is there, ready to experience whatever is there, depending on whether the object which is experienced appear to be known or not. Is that right? A reality must be that reality which is there sees now, hears now, thinks now. Learn to understand that reality which is there from birth, on and on and on, to the moment of death, but still they are conditioned for whatever arises to experience different life. That's all. Is there such reality?
Yeah.
It's there now. It's there now. Any moment, it's there. Ready to experience what is there appearing. When what appears, it means that it appears through that which experiences it. Otherwise, it cannot appear at all. We think that there are many things around, but if it's not touched, can hardness appear, or bed, or curtain, or flowers? So learn to understand the secret reality, which is hidden from birth to life, to death, that it's there all the time, different ones, different moments, different conditions, to experiences different reality or different object at a time, only one at a time. Is that real? So now it's time to pay attention to that particular reality which is there. Experiences, what is there now appear like visible object, different colors. Sound is heard, smell is smells, and so on. There must be the reality which experiences it. Otherwise, how can it appear? That's why the tree cannot see, cannot hear. Only the reality, which is a particular reality which arises and experience. Anytime it arises, it experiences an object and then gone. So very short, it doesn't last at all, like seeing right now. Hearing is not seeing. At moment of hearing, there's no seeing. But they arise just so very rapidly. Ultimately, from moment to moment. So what appears as they are there together, but in truth, they cannot be there together by different conditions. Different reality which sees, and it's different from the reality which hears. Even it experiences an object, but the condition for it arises is different to be seeing or to be hearing. But seeing is the moment of experiencing an object, and hearing is moment of hearing sound. So the reality which experiences is a reality from birth to be living being as a cat or a dog or human being, an elephant or an ant. Learn to understand that reality, that it's there. It cannot be taken for anyone because it's conditioned to arise, to experience, and then gone. That's all. Everything is in a moment, split seconds moment. Is this true? Or is it only idea? Or is there now to be known that it's there, a reality?
Yeah.
And to call it, to make it known, we use, the Buddha talked about the term chitta or vijnana or whatever, is the chief of experiencing an object. Without it, can there be the world, water, sun, moon, trees, and so on? Impossible. Only when it's known or it's experiences that it's there, different ones, by that which arises and experiences only an object at a time, differently. But the rapidity of the arising and falling away condition the sign or the mark, shape and form to be known as this is this and that is that. But there must be a reality which experiences an object as living being. And we can use the term citta, the chief of experiencing the object. Now, different colors, different sound, only one moment at a time. Just one moment cannot make it different, but many moments, different ones by different moments. Is it real? Is that reality which now sees and hears by conditions to be what? Seeing or hearing or thinking. Just learn to understand the absolute truth of life, of what is there as it is. Is it true? That's all. Who can change it? Who can make it not arise to see, not arise to hear? When there are conditions for whatever arises, it has to arise, not at will, not by anyone's power. Only conditions, condition different reality. The reality which cannot experience and the reality which experiences in life, in any world and anywhere. There must be the reality which arises but cannot experience anything at all. And there must be a reality which arises and experiences what appears now. Otherwise, that object cannot appear. That reality cannot appear. Only when it's known or experienced by a reality which arises to experience it. So we learn about what is there now. What is there now? There must be a reality which experiences an object. No matter whether the object is known, appearing or not appear at all, but it's there. But whenever it arises to experience an object, that's all. Can that reality be a dog or a cat, a human being, or female, man or woman? Impossible.
So for anyone who is new here, this is the point. Usually we live in a world thinking in terms of people and things, curtains, beds, computers, and taking all these objects and people for being real. But through the Buddha's teachings, we learn that these are just the ideas that we have, the ideas, the fantasies. Like earlier, I was talking to Nina about worrying about this and that, all these different things that may occur in the day, but actually it's just thinking about different stories about people and things. So through the Buddha's teachings, we begin to understand what is real, the opposite of what is just imagined to be real. And the point of learning about, discussing and understanding more about seeing, for example, now, hearing now, what is seen, just that which is visible, different from the shapes, the people, the things that we think are seen. Gradually, there can be a little more letting go of the idea of I that experiences and something or someone that is experienced. So this is the heart of the Buddha's teachings, beginning to understand those realities which experience an object and those realities that don't experience anything, in order to let go of the idea of I, someone, something. And this is why we have to discuss and come back to this moment to understand a little more about what is real, what is true now, what appears now, because otherwise we can just think and think about it, But at this moment, what is heard, for example, we think that Ajahn's voice or my voice is heard, but actually it's just sound that's heard. But immediately there's thinking about the different sounds, the different ideas, the different meanings, the different words. So we learn a little more about what is actually real at this moment. And we think, I hear the voice, I hear, it's that different sounds. But actually, it's just a moment of hearing now, which arises, experiences the sound, and falls away instantly. So this is life from moment to moment, a moment of experiencing, which falls away instantly, no one there at all. So as you're familiar with, I know, the Buddha's teachings are very deep and very subtle. So it's not a matter of trying to understand, trying to do anything, but beginning to gradually understand more about what is true, what is real at this very moment.
Sarah, could I say something?
Carry on, Chanti.
Okay. First of all, very happy to see Dara. She's so pretty. I'd like to quote Jonathan. I was listening this morning to Chinese recording. It may be helpful as a beginner. There are realities which are not directly known at the present moment. So for me, it says, as we are here with names and bodies, like everyone is used to being here, the Buddha is teaching us that there are realities that we don't directly know. And the thing is, it's not the goal to get to know them because it's impossible. And we won't ever not see ourselves in the mirror, or not feel a body, or not feel a world with people and animals and trees. And that's not the goal at all. It's just to intellectually understand, and that's as far as we will ever be able to understand it as beginners, that the Buddha discovered that there are other realities, and the Buddha did directly know them, or better said, the realities the consciousness with the Chittasikas, the mental factors, knew the realities directly. And then Jonathan says, so there are realities which are not directly known at the present moment, and that we would not be aware of, we would not know about, unless we heard the Buddha's teachings about these realities. And then Jonathan says, so now that you've heard, you are beginning at an intellectual level. You'll be able to reflect on it and to see for yourself if it is consistent with your daily life experience, beginning to appreciate what the Buddha was talking about. And that's as much as it is, actually. It's not magically seeing realities at once. That won't happen. That's just what I wanted to bring in. Thank you.
Thanks, Shanti. I could just perhaps add a little bit to that. As Ajahn explained and emphasized, that the world as we perceive it is perceived because of consciousness. if there were no consciousness, there'd be no world as we perceive it. And the way it's perceived is, it appears that there are different kinds of consciousness experiencing at the same time, seeing and hearing, and thoughts about what is being seen and heard appear to be occurring simultaneously and continuously. But that is not the way the world is in reality, according to the Buddha's teaching. How could that be? Well, because in the Buddha's teaching, consciousness is momentary, not a constantly occurring phenomenon, so that seeing and hearing, for example, occur alternately and think together with thinking about what has been seen and heard, but so rapidly that they are not perceived as being separately occurring realities with different functions. And but in the truth is, according to the Buddha's teaching, that these rapidly occurring momentary moments of consciousness are impermanent elements. So rather than there being me and the world out there, these different realities come to be seen little by little as they truly are. And there is more the understanding that what we take for me and the world out there are just different impersonal realities occurring by conditions. But of course, having said that, there's so much there to be understood directly rather than just conceptualized about. But the beginning is, as Shanti was saying, the beginning is having heard the Buddha's description of the way things are. There is the opportunity, as Ajahn said, to attend to, in the sense of consider whether that description is consistent with our experience in life.
Yes, and I would just add one comment to what you said, Chanti. It may seem now that what is heard will only ever be intellectually understood, but the reason we talk about what appears now, like seeing now, or what is seen, the visible object, is because the understanding can develop and become firmer and deeper to directly understand what appears right now by conditions, any time, any place, by conditions. So it just depends on accumulations and understanding, and when it is developed and firm enough to understand what appears now, the hardness that is touched now, we can say it's hardness that is touched, but there can be the direct understanding of that hardness without giving it any name that appears. So that's a point of talking about what appears, because it's what can be known now. Other details don't appear, so they cannot be known, other realities. But what actually appears now, like hardness or seeing, these are Dhamma's realities that there can be the direct understanding of by conditions.
So I think what we're all saying is that the development of the path taught by the Buddha is the development of the understanding of seeing things as they truly are. It's not about, for example, necessarily having less akusala, less unwholesome mental states in a day, or having more wholesome mental states, or being more calm person, that sort of thing. It's all about having it, developing the understanding that sees things the way they truly are, because it's the misapprehension of the world as it truly is, which is the cause of the akusala and continuation in samsara.
earlier when Ajahn was asking what appears now, what is now, and I could hear Jyotika, you're quietly saying seeing, but Ajahn may not have heard your responses because it was a little soft. So there can be more and more confidence that it is just seeing now, which arises and sees what is visible and is gone. No one that sees, no thing that sees, just a moment of experiencing what is seen.
Yes.
The chief in experiencing what is seen and then gone. And this is daily life and it's right now. And
Yes.
that understanding can develop deeper and deeper. And the distinction between the seeing and what it's seen becomes clearer because
Yes.
the understanding becomes firmer.
Yes, and Sarah, you were asking me if I had to ask something, but it was just on this one with seeing, and I hear Ajahn saying this is the main thing, the main chief, the chief in the process. And Nina was saying the same, said the same question about this main thing. But what struck me was that it is the main thing, and I understood it is there from birth. It is there from birth, but it is also coming anew every time. It's not one thing staying there, it's just, it is falling away all the time and coming back from birth also. So it seems like contradiction, but it is there from birth. From birth on, it is rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. Yeah.
That's right. So at each moment in life, there is the experiencing of the object. But as Nina mentioned at the start, there is what Ajahn was referring to as the chief in experiencing, the citta, which experiences object. For example, at a moment of seeing is the chief in experiencing it, just experiences what is visible clearly. But it needs the support of at least 7 mental factors. So at the moment of seeing, there are 7 mental factors, the cetasikas, which accompany the seeing to experience the object. There must be the contact, there must be the focusing, there must be the attention, there must be the feeling. And each of these mental factors performs its own function, experiencing the same visible object. But the seeing, the citta, is always the chief, the leader in experiencing the object. And as you say, it arises and falls away at every moment in life. At the moment of hearing, there is no seeing. At the moment of thinking, there is no seeing and no hearing. So it arises and falls away. But at every instant in life, it is the chief in experiencing the object. And it's always that reality, the citta, which experiences, never a person, never a thing.
But I have a question then. There is also sanya. And sanya is toch also seeing?
Sanya is the memory. So it accompanies, it's one of the 7 factors that accompanies every moment of consciousness, every citta in life. And the sanya marks and remembers what is experienced. The visible object that is seen is marked and remembered by sanya. So actually it's never forgotten. That's why there can be thinking about the colors, the shapes, the forms, what is seen, because the memory has marked and remembered it. So at every moment in life, the sanya, the memory, marks and remembers what is experienced. Otherwise, there would be no memory that this is Jyotika, this is Ajahn, this is a tree, this is a sunset. It's because there is the memory of what has been experienced that it can condition the thinking about these different colors, shapes, forms, and ideas.
Jyotika, I want to say that, like just now you mentioned that do sanya sees. when any consciousness chitta arise, consciousness is the chief, the leader to know the object, but Chetasika doesn't perform as leader as chitta, but it experience. So like, for example, the seeing consciousness, the consciousness at that moment, yes, perform the seeing. The Chetasika that accompany at that moment does not see, does not perform function as sees like a chitta, there's a chief, but it does experience. We use the word experience the same object, but it does not perform the function of seeing like the cheetah that sees at that moment.
It's true. It does not see. Its seeing is for the cheetah.
The only reality that sees the object, just that moment of seeing, that chitta. The other Cetasikas, they experience the same object, but they don't see it. And the other chittas that follow the seeing, they experience the object, but they don't see it. They experience it in a different way.
So it is just the marking and the remembering what is the function of sanya.
Yes, it doesn't see anything. It just marks and remembers the object that has been experienced at every moment in life.
But then the marking and remembering, that is more conventional. For the conventional world, for, that we know the name and that we know.
Yes. Still, we have to use words. So still there has to be the reality that makes its mark, which notes or remembers that object so that it can be recalled later. And it's just for a moment and then gone. And that's why now there can be the thinking about what was said a moment ago, because there was the remembering of the sounds heard, the meaning, the words that were given. Like now, if I ask Dara what chitta is or what is the chief in experiencing, she would have some idea because of what has been heard. That is because of sanya, memory. Without sanya, nothing would be recalled at all.
So in fact, it is working together. That is the chitta with the Cetasika together.
That's right. They arise together, they condition each other, they fall away together.
But when I heard this, I found this thing with the 5 comparisons, like body with foam, feeling with a water bubble, and then the perception with a mirage.
Like a mirage, yes.
Yeah, like a mirage.
Yes. So the rupa, the visible object, it's like just like a piece of foam that disappears instantly, and the feelings just like bubbles gone. And what is remembered, like now, we think there is a sunrise that is remembered, but it's actually a mirage, a fantasy, because what was seen is just visible object. But because of memory and thinking, there is the idea of people and things and sunrises and sunsets. So we live in the world of mirages and fantasies, taking for real what is not real. Like when we wake up in the morning, we know that it was a dream, not real, just different fantasies that were experienced like mirages. But actually, even now, in between the seeing and hearing and other sense door experiences, there is the thinking about different ideas, different dreams, different mirages. And that is because of memory. If there was no memory, that this is this person and that person, this sunrise and this is sunset, there wouldn't be thinking about these different ideas, these different stories.
Yeah.
And Chitta is like the conjurer, the magician that makes it possible for all these different fantasies to be experienced or be known, because it can think about or imagine anything at all.
But I find these comparisons helpful to understand why it is about.
I think the point of any of these similes, any of these comparisons, or what we're talking about now at all, is just to show that, yes, we live in a world of fantasies and mirages, but the truth is there are just moments of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking about different stories about what has been seen, what has been heard. If nothing had been seen, nothing had been heard, there wouldn't be the thinking about the different ideas about people and places as usual. So it's all to indicate that it's just an empty world, like a bubble or a piece of foam that disappears immediately. Nothing lasts, it's completely gone. Sunyata, empty of self.
To get it together.
So the world is just there for a moment, what is experienced now, the visible object. And then at the moment of hearing, it's another world, the world of sound. So the world is crumbling, falling away all the time.
So strange.
So strange, so interesting, and so true.
Well, it's not strange. Dhamma is not strange. So saying it's so strange is actually wrong.
It seems strange because it's so very different from the way we're used to understanding the world, the truth. So this is why it seems strange, because it goes against the way of thinking of the world.
Yes.
And without the Buddha, it would never be known.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sarah, I think Lewan Chong, he written that you want to know the difference between Somanasa, Vedana, and Piti, Chedasika. So I
We
think
need to use English words because to consider for newcomers. So Gung's question, I can't see Gung, maybe he's here. His question is about the difference between pleasant feeling now and joy. So pleasant feeling, like now we're smiling and laughing, this pleasant feeling. It may be pleasant feeling at this moment with a little understanding, or it may be pleasant feeling with attachment. So the feeling just experiences the object. It just feels what is experienced by the citta in a pleasant way. It's not joyful, it's not sad, it's just the feeling which tastes the object in a pleasant way. And this is different from the mental factor of joy, which can also arise with attachment, or it can arise with wholesome realities like giving or or understanding. But joy doesn't feel anything. It just rejoices. It enjoys what is experienced. I don't know if Gurng is there, if you would like to discuss this. Hi, Gurng. Just can you use some English to explain any Pali words you use, just because we have one or two newcomers today?
Yeah,
Carry
because somehow confusing and have a similar kind of between the choice and the pleasant feeling. say at the moment of the joyful, the pleasant feeling there.
Yes, at the moment of joy, it's pleasant feeling at those moments. So joy arises with pleasant feeling. When we're unhappy, no joy. So joy arises with pleasant feeling, but it must arise either with, it can arise either with attachment or with wholesome citas, wholesome thinking, wholesome dhammas.
So, okay, at the moment of the seeing, for example, at the moment of the touchings, for example, with the pleasant feeling but no joy, right?
No joy at that moment,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Because it's just the result of karma at that moment of experiencing the object. So at that moment, only 7 mental factors, 7 chaitasikas arise with that touching. So no matter how pleasant the object, for example, when touching something very soft or having a shower, which is just the right temperature, there is pleasant feeling, which is a result of karma, but no joy at that moment. But immediately afterwards, there's attachment is bound to arise. And when the attachment arises, there is joy with it. So that's a good example of pleasant feeling without joy. Usually, most moments, whenever there's pleasant feeling, there is joy, but not at those moments of experiencing through the body sense.
Yeah, so that's why pleasant feeling, they distinguish between body sense as in sukha vedana and mind or as somanasa vedana, so they are different.
Maybe it's
And
good to, sorry. Yeah, maybe it's good to restate that when we're talking about feeling, we're not talking about daily life feeling. And when we're talking about joy, we're not talking about daily life joy.
Why are we not talking about daily life pleasant feeling and joy, like at this moment? Pleasant feeling, joy.
Because we cannot directly know the joy we're talking about that arises for real.
But still, it is daily life at this moment, like right now.
Yes.
We're talking about the Dhamma and many moments of pleasant feeling with joy. Mm-hmm. But it's not a matter of trying to know, trying to understand, because that is thinking and the idea of self, trying to work it out. But still, it's daily life at this moment, and pleasant feeling can be known, just that reality which experiences in a pleasant way, and joy can be known.
When you say can be known, can you explain?
So there can be intellectual understanding that there is pleasant feeling now, there is joy now, but there can even be the direct understanding of that feeling when it appears, if it appears, or of the joy. Not anyone doing anything, just by conditions. It depends on the understanding.
Yes,
whether it has been accumulated, and whether it arises or not, it is still daily life. The pleasant feeling is still daily life now. The joy is daily life, but usually it's not understood, or if it's known to be there, it's taken for being my pleasant feeling, my joy.
I'd like to distinguish between those, because it can happen, but we wouldn't directly know if there's understanding as a reality arising. It's different from the intellectual understanding, like I can read a book and
we wouldn't know, but understanding knows. Understanding knows what is understood at that moment. So the understanding knows the difference between thinking intellectually and directly knowing the object, not by eye trying to work it out or thinking about it. If there's doubt, then even that doubt can be understood.
But Sarah's joy is pity, huh? Joy is
Yes.
pity, yeah?
Yes.
But that's a reality.
It's a reality and it's common. So joy when walking in the countryside or enjoying the scenery, there's joy at those moments with pleasant feeling, with attachment, and at moments of appreciating the truth or understanding now. There is the joy at those moments of understanding, however little the understanding there is, letting go just a little the baggage of the idea of self. There's joy when understanding develops. So it's different kinds of joy, wholesome and unwholesome joy, but it's that same reality of joy, different from the pleasant feeling. But it's not a matter of... Go ahead, go.
Yes, sorry. The other joyful on the other being successful or the other being happiness. That that is the other reality, right? Meaning the...
Yes, mudita. You're thinking about when there's joy in others' good fortune, or, for example, when we appreciate the other's understanding or goodness, there is consideration of the others and joy in their happiness at that moment or their goodness at that moment. So that is a different reality. But when there is that joy or sympathetic joy for the others, at those moments, the feeling is pleasant, and there is also piti that Jyotika mentioned, joy at that time too. So different realities. We don't have to say it's this one or that one, but we can see how they arise together and condition each other.
But is the pity also, can it also be unwholesome?
Yes, for example, when we're enjoying the scenery and there's attachment and there's joy, enjoying the object experience, then it is also piti, but it's unwholesome piti. It's not feeling. There was the question. It's that reality of joy, but it's the joy that arises with attachment at that moment, and it's the feeling is pleasant.
And then I was thinking about this, that we often say, I'm thankful for, I'm thankful, thankful. Is thankful also not a kind of joy? And thankful itself doesn't have a...
Yes.
Thankful itself is not a Chaitasika, is it?
It's thinking about
being
thankful, and it may be wholesome or unwholesome, but at those moments, usually there is pleasant feeling and usually there is joy at those moments. It may be with attachment or it may be with some understanding. It depends. Only the understanding itself can know. So we can see that these different mental factors arise together and condition each other, the joy, the pleasant feeling with attachment, or the joy, the pleasant feeling with goodness.
There is not a Chaitasika called thankfulness. I think I'm so often thankful for what I got.
Yeah, this is something that one hears about in other teachings, isn't it, Jyotika? Being thankful for the food one is about to eat, for example.
Oh, yes,
being thankful for having a shelter over one's head, for example. And as I see it,
thankful
a
for
lot of the time a lot of the time what one is being thankful for is one's past karma that has conditioned the pleasant, the experience, the things that are about to be experienced or are being experienced. Because as we know, it is karma, as we understand from the teaching, it is karma that conditions whether the experiences through the sense doors are pleasant or unpleasant.
Oh, yeah.
And it is past karma that is responsible for a lot of the things that we might be thankful for in life.
But thankful,
As we've been taught, as we were brought up to think about being thankful. I mean, yeah.
yeah, but thankful itself is not in the
It
text.
could be, because it could be kusala, it could be akusala. It is easy to see how there can be a sense of satisfaction, for example, but also to whom is one being thankful?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense unless there is a perception of some other person or thing that is responsible for the good fortune that we are experiencing.
Another kind of thankfulness or appreciation is in others' goodness, like there can be appreciation or thankfulness when one experiences others' generosity or understanding or explaining of the truth. And this is, we often have the word in Asian countries, anumodana, which is an appreciation of different kinds of goodness. And this is a kind of generosity, a kind of aloba, a kind of dana, showing appreciation or having appreciation for others' good deeds or goodness. So this is the best kind of appreciation or thankfulness, I think, because it's not thinking about ourselves, but it's showing the appreciation for the goodness or the good qualities of others.
Yeah, then it is very close. Thankfulness is very close with appreciation, with also zufrieden. Be tevreden. To be zufrieden. I don't know what is the word, zufrieden. Peaceful.
Satisfied.
Satisfied.
Yeah.
Tevreden, satisfied? Yeah.
The Buddha encouraged being easy to please, being satisfied with little, accepting whatever comes in life, which we mentioned at the beginning of Gabby, whatever comes, just accepting what is experienced, painful or pleasant, unpleasant, what is said, what is heard. So this is a kind of being satisfied in a wholesome way. I just want to ask Dara if you have any comments or any questions so far, Dara, or happy just listening?
I'm happy just listening.
Just getting back to Gung's question for a moment. There's quite a well-known simile given in the Visuddhimagga, which I'm looking at from Nina's book on Cetasikas. She quotes it there, and it says, if a man who is exhausted in a desert saw or heard about a pond of water on the edge of a wood, he would have joy. And if he went into the wood and used the water, he would have pleasant feeling. And so the perception or appreciation or the function of piti, it is said, is to take an interest in the object. It is, piti is, joy is satisfied or delighted with the object. That means, I think, with the prospect of the object. And it's pleasant feeling that occurs when something pleasant is experienced through the sense door.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah.
But of course, in terms of what is appearing at the present moment, it is likely to be beyond our ability to distinguish the two at any given moment. John, are you there? Is there anything you would like to speak about? Thank you.
So now there is some understanding of the reality which experiences the object right now. For example, before hearing the words about the truth of seeing, there can be only the idea that is seeing, or I see all the time. She sees, I see, and on as someone. But in truth, when we learn about the reality that experiences an object, so there can be the moment of understanding of seeing right now. It's a reality. Instead of just seeing, sees, yes, seeing, sees, the name seeing, sees, but that moment of understanding, seeing experiences the object which appears as visible object. So we call it seeing, or even we don't call it, it's there, sees, but it is something, it is. But at moment of understanding the truth, it's just a reality. Otherwise, there cannot be that which is seen at all. It's the experiencing or see that object. So there can be a little more understanding of what it means by seeing, that it's a reality that's different from other things. And when there is attachment to what is seen, at that moment, no thought about seeing as it sees, but it's there, liking, being attached to that which is seen or heard and so on. No one thought about that which experience the object that attachment is attached to. That's why no matter what is there in a day in life, there can be a little more understanding of the truth of a reality different from the other, like the reality which now or anytime arises and experiences all the time, different moment, different object, but no thought about it. And there is moment of other reality appearing, and we know by name what is what. But the truth of it, the characteristic of it, each different ones, like attachment cannot be seeing at all, no thought about it. But there is attachment instant right then to be attached. So attached to the object which is seen or heard, no understanding of that which is experienced by the seeing or hearing or smelling or tasting or touching. That's why all realities are not known at all in a day until we begin to talk about it, learn about it, and understanding it, that it's not permanent at all. It's not always there, no matter seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. And there can be a little more understanding when we say seeing. See, depending on understanding. The one who hasn't understanding what seeing is at all, just know that it's seeing, seeing, sees, seeing, sees. But at moment of seeing right now, a little more understanding of the truth of there must be a reality which arises each moment, experiencing an object, begin to understand any moment, at moment of touching. Usually no thought about that which touched, but thinking about the object which is touched as something all the time. But when there is the understanding of a reality in life, it has to be there any moment. Otherwise, nothing can be appeared at all. That's why learning to understand at moment of touching, there is that which experiencing it, no matter we call it touching or not at all, it's there, experiencing an object. This is the moment to begin to pay attention to that which experiences an object in a day which hasn't been attended before. That's all. Develop the understanding of the nature, the truth of what is there. Not just the word, seeing, but the word is so straightforward, it's so true, it's so clear. Seeing sees, see? Seeing sees. When there is the understanding of seeing, that it is that which experiences object. So seeing, if you use the word, seeing sees. A reality experiences an object. Hearing hears. We use the direct word hearing because that reality which experiences object, sound, as hearing, we use the term hearing to begin to understand the nature of hearing, that it's a reality which experiences sound. And this is the development of understanding the truth, the absolute truth of what is there as just one reality, which is different from the others. For example, seeing, see, we don't think of memory or feeling at all. We just talk about seeing, but it depends on understanding, how much understanding of the seeing that we know that it's there, sees. There is a seeing because there is that which is seen, and what is that which is a reality which experiences only that object. A little more understanding at different moments by conditions can condition the more confidence of that which arises and experiences an object, that it's there as achieved. So at any moment, liking, see, there must be the reality which experiences that, which is the object of attachment at that very moment. But if there is no thinking, no considering at all, how can there be understanding the reality which sees, hears, and on? But there is the word seeing. So seeing is seeing. Hearing is hearing. So the rest of its nature, as it sees, it hears, when there is the understanding of hearing as just a reality, the reality which is there from birth, experiences an object non-stop from moment to moment until the object appears by conditions. At moment when the object impinges on the base of whatever is hearing, seeing, or smelling, tasting, the citta, or the reality which experiences the object, unknown object, begin to experience the object by condition different from the object when it does not appear, when the object does not appear. Just develop the understanding of what is there in life, to understand the teachings of the Buddha, to understand what is there in life as its truth, ultimate truth. It's there and gone. And it says again, hears again, think again. Whatever is there has to be citta, the chief of experiencing the object for attachment, aversion, and thinking, and on, by different cetasikas, vitakka, from moment after seeing, conditions such idea, and so on in life. Understand what is there in life as different realities, one by one. So seeing cannot be liking, disliking, memory, or feeling at all. Seeing sees, understanding little by little of that which sees. Not only in word, but in truth. Is it so very subtle?
Yeah.
But it's true. Even it's there experiencing an object, it depends on what is there appear, like attachment or aversion. That's all, different ones. But it needs the reality which experiencing the object, otherwise nothing can arise and appear at all. So what is there now? The reality which experiences that moment object. At moment of touching is there, experiencing that which is touched. It is a little bit open up, little to know it, that it is there any moment. Right now, it's there. Whatever appears is that which experiences it. Any moment, can there be moment of beginning to think about it, little by little? Hardness, there must be the reality which experiences it. Beginning to attend to the characteristic which experiences what is there in life. Each moment is there. See, the sound is heard. It hears, hearing, hears before hearing. Hearing does, the sound does not appear because citta does not experience sound, because sound is not conditioned for hearing to arise. To experience the object which is known, and then after hearing the sound gone, it arises and experiences the unknown object on and on until they're conditioned for thinking or hearing or smelling or tasting. And then when everything is gone, it's there, arising and falling away, experience the unknown object. That's why it's the chief of experiencing what is there in life. Who knows or not, but it's there, experiences an object. So at moment of touching, it's there. At moment of seeing, it's there, sees. At moment of hearing, it's there, hear. At moment of smelling, it's there, smelling. Become to be a little bit acquainted to the characteristic of the reality which arises and experiences, because it's there. Whatever appears, it's there. Experience that. That's why citta can experience everything. Can loka experience nibbana? Impossible. But citta can.
And when Ajahn talks about experiencing what appears, what is there, this of course indicates that there is no need for the selection of an object to be aware of, because if awareness arises, it will take whatever object it is conditioned to be aware of, rather than awareness is not something that can be directed to occur by selecting an object which one thinks might be useful to know more about. So when it comes to distinguishing one reality from another, for example, what we learn at an intellectual level about different realities is one thing, but the actual experiencing of different realities occurs by conditions, not by anything to do with our selection or thinking some realities more important to be known than others.
Yeah, and this is what we like forget. Like we saying that studying Dhamma, and then should we determine that that should be known, or after listening Dhamma, okay, that point and all that. But when we forgot Dhamma as Dhamma, that there's nothing to be determined, nothing to be determined that this have to be known. It come by condition or just anatta, and then we might expect something like where I have more knowledge and all that, but that actually going against Dhamma as Dhamma, nothing meant to be expected or determined, able to determine, thinking that that should be happening. So yeah, so Dhamma we for understand by, not by choice.
And in answer to Chanti's question in the notes for everyone about why there needs to be the listening and considering again and again, the reason is because, as Jyotika said, it all seems so strange and different when we begin to hear about realities, because we are so very used to selecting or doing or following a method or practice, getting results, and beginning to understand there is no one here, no one to do anything, no one that can select what is seen now, what is heard now, what is thought about. Takes a lot of careful listening and considering. And as Chanti said before, there may be some intellectual understanding that it's just seeing now, which sees what is visible, but that's not enough. There will be doubt again and again when it's just intellectual understanding. The understanding has to develop and go deeper and deeper to directly understand what appears now, and only that understanding will eventually eradicate doubts and ideas of selection, ideas of I doing something. So this is why there has to be the getting used to what life really is at this moment. Seeing now, which sees what is visible, hearing, which hears what is heard, and so on. No one that can experience anything, no thing or no one that is seen or heard at all. So this is why the Buddha also repeated again and again about the realities in daily life, the meeting of the seeing with the visible object that has impinged on eye sense at this moment, for example, in order for the understanding that there really isn't anyone, anything to be found, to be realized, so that the burden of I that has to do something, or I that practice, or I that can experience, can gradually be worn away. It takes a lot of listening and careful considering to really understand the truth.
And Sarah, by conditions only, there is an interest in knowing the truth or not. And also this interest is alternating with no or lesser interest and doubt. But we cannot make people interested who aren't. It's there or not.
And most of the day, the interest is in other. objects, other topics, interest in the foods we're going to eat for lunch, interest in the scenery while we're walking around, interest in what other people are doing or ways of behaving, interest in the clothes we're wearing. So interest in so many things like joy. The interest can be with wholesome or unwholesome cheetahs, and most of the time it is with unwholesome ways of thinking. Even when there's annoyance and we're angry, there's interest in the object of that annoyance or anger. So the interest in understanding the truth is very rare and very precious. But as you say, if there is no interest to understand the truth, then the person won't listen, won't consider. It can't be forced. It depends on conditions.
Yes.
Whether there's
Yeah.
seeing the value and real interest to not know what is correct, what the Buddha taught about life at this moment.
Yeah, and
Interest
some
to
accumulations to appreciate the Buddha, some confidence accumulated.
Yes. And as Ajahn said, interest to appreciate how very subtle the Buddha's teaching is. It's not the interest in the Buddha that most people think about, for example, when going to a temple, following a practice, following different rituals in the temple. The interest is in the understanding of the truth that the Buddha taught. That's the only way to know or get close to the Buddha, by understanding the truth that he taught about life now.
And this can change like it did for you and, well, many.
And also it changes at each moment, moments of, even now while we're discussing Dhamma, moments of wholesome interest and moments of unwholesome interest when there's a sound heard or something seen that gets our attention, and there's interest or curiosity in what is seen or heard. So it's just for a moment. Whatever arises is for a moment, not yours or mine or anyone's, and gone instantly.
And even though interest also someone may have accumulated a lot of wisdom and all that, but still if we are putujana and the kilesa is not yet been eradicated. And yes, you see in the daily life, you want to eat some good food, you want to see some nice, beautiful scenery, you want to hear some music, and actually in our daily life is all interested in all these only, and very, very, very rare in Dhamma. Like me, if after this I want to go eat something and want to go some sweets and all that.
Yes.
Actually, very, sorry, Mina, just one little thing. It's uplifting that there's interest even when there's dosa and anger and
Not letting go of the object at all because of the interest in that object.
When we are in trouble, we like to solve the problem, and that is our interest mostly. We are worried. But what I want to ask is about the subtlety, because several times the word subtlety is used, but maybe we can learn more about the meaning of that Dhamma, or that seeing is so subtle.
There are just a few minutes left, so let's let Ajahn answer your question.
Yeah. Because it seems like there is understanding of what we are talking about, but it has to be considered deeper too. For example, there is seeing right now. Everyone knows seeing because it sees now. But does seeing appear? It's there. See, and does it appear, seeing itself, to be known? And why it's not known? Because the object of seeing appears, the object of whatever experiences is there appearing, but the reality which experiences does not appear. That's why everyone knows when attachment is there. but does it appear as it is? Attachment. That's why we learn about the story of the characteristic of what is there. But does it appear, or what appears, in order to be object of understanding? No matter what appears, there is no understanding of the ultimate truth of it. For example, there is seeing right now. What appears, table and chairs and things, people and sun and moon and so on, is that which is visible, which impinge on the eye base, appear as it is. That's why it has to be considered again and again and again in order to understand, for it to appear to be known as it is, like that which experiences the object, no matter in what way, what manner, what characteristic as they are. But they experience the object in different manners, different characteristics, and the reality which cannot experience the object, is it known as it is? As it is. That's why we learn to understand the moment when it appears from one process to another process to another process, so very rapidly to perform what is seen as magic world, not as it is. Is that true? Just to consider one characteristic of a reality a little more to understand what it says. The intellectual understanding, and from pariyatti, if it's not well enough, strong enough, firm enough, can it condition moment of direct understanding what is seen, what is touched, or what is heard as it is? Not the meaning of the word, only just sound. Different from the moment of understanding. Instantly, like together, I am hearing the word, but actually, from moment to moment, before it can be the word to be understood. So it's just moment of beginning to understand the subtlety of realities, which is there now to be known little by little from pariyatti, and understand the path or the way to develop the second stage, direct understanding of what is there as it has been heard, until it appears so very clear, because just one reality at a time, not like so many objects appearing together like now. So learn to understand what is there. See, it's not the word, but it's the reality which experiences, and the object is that which impinge on the eye base and so on. Little by little, letting go. Because what is touched, is it as hard as it appears? Or it does not appear as it is? Why not? Because so many different objects appear together, color, and there can be smell of something depending on conditions. So it does not appear as it is. Or is it now appear as it is? What is the difference? Or are taught by the Buddha to develop understanding closer and closer, to understand the reality which is there so very quickly, from moment to moment. How can it be known? What can be known is only nimitta of one characteristic of a reality, not as things and people. So just learn to understand the truth of what is there as it's taught. There must be that which is seen, so there must be that which experiences it. Is there any moment of beginning to learn about the truth? there must be the reality which arises and experiences an object from moment of birth, from moment to moment, up to now, and on and on. Learn to get closer to the reality which is there, when hardness is there, when sound is there, when smell is there. It's moment to understand that which experiences an object at a time by conditions. Otherwise, the object is not known, but the object is known by conditions. And it's time now. สวัสดีค่ะ
So